we are on Facebook Live, so please feel free to go ahead and check out this entire conversation on Facebook afterwards. Again, he joins us now, Steve Ross, who is a community leader of note. Mr. Ross, good afternoon to you. Once again, it's a pleasure and a privilege to have you with us on the show.
Hi, Cliff. Thanks once again for inviting me. And like I said, I'm always free if you need me to share any topic. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And listen, let's get into that one. I shared with you off air that in the last few hours today alone,
Yeah.
there has been articles coming through in various newspaper bulletins saying Lentegeur is marching for peace because, of course, what has been happening in Lentegeur, the broad daylight gunfights between different gangsters. Then you've got a cop versus gangs, that shootout. Then you've got gang fighting over just a stolen bike. Just the other day, over the weekend, you have a young lady that was murdered, put into a bin, and I think this was in Manenberg. I do speak under correction, but the young lady that was again murdered, and she was put into a bin and left for dead on the field. All of this is happening at the moment. There's a lot in terms of crime. The last couple of weeks, there's been so much crime that's been taking place on the Cape Flats in these communities. As a community leader, you of course have your finger on the pulse. You've got your hands in all of these communities. What have you seen, and how has this information really affected you as a community leader?
On the fly, Cliff, I just spoke yesterday to some trauma counseling people to say that we as community leaders sometimes don't look at ourselves. We go to scenes where the brains are shot out. We go to funerals where moms are screaming in pain and in anger. And I've realized that even community leaders out there, myself included, we are not immune to the trauma of what our communities are suffering. So just to start with, I must tell you honestly, it's not easy. It's a very painful exercise to go out there and to comfort parents and whoever else. You don't have words anymore because it's so a common thing lately. And so I just want to focus sometimes on the community leaders like myself and others. There's many others, not only me, that goes out to the scene with the police, sometimes even before the police arrives. And it's very traumatic. You go home, you have dreams about it. You can't even think of what can be done sometimes, because as you are so in pain with the one, you hear news of another. So that is the cycle that we have currently in our areas.
Sure. Okay. So speaking about that, what is then happening? What is the plan of action when it comes to these violence? Because listen, people are tired, okay, but people are also scared. All right, so you have a certain part of the community that is just tired of this gang violence, tired of the unsafe zones, tired of the constant fear that they have to walk in, that they have to send their children into midweek in the morning going to school. Then you have the other part of the community that kind of just sits back and says, "Oh well, this is our community, and we kind of just accept it for what it is." As a community leader, and you again highlighting yourself and many other leaders doing a lot of work on the ground, often before law enforcement shows up. What do you think is the current situation, realistically speaking? What are things like realistically within these communities, just in terms of fear and just even possibly the violence happening?
Yeah, for me personally, I'm getting very concerned that the fear and the anger is going to turn to anarchy very soon. Anarchy because law enforcement and the police cannot get to the bottom of many of these shootings and killings that's happening all the time, 24/7 almost in some areas. And the community themselves, though they are screaming for help and though they are angry, my concern is anarchy. Anarchy is when they're going to take the law in their own hands.
Yeah.
And that is going to be something that even law enforcement is going to be able to control because now the community has had enough with these gangsters. And I say that because I realize our law enforcement are stretched to the limit.
Yes.
People live not only in fear of the criminal, but they live in fear of squealing on these criminals. They live in fear of telling who the criminals is. And I've been recently to Mbizo on how criminals buy or threaten businesses in the construction area.
Yeah.
But they actually buy our people as well. They are the ones that supplying the mom that when I can't reach the mom with school clothes and school shoes and something to eat, They are the people that this community is turning to. So
Sure.
when the time comes that they must be protected by the community, that very community sometimes don't want to squeal on them because remember that's where the next loaf of bread is going to come from.
Wow.
That's where the next child pencils and stencils and whatever the child requires can come from there. So sometimes these communities are in a catch-22 situation is
Mm.
once we get rid of these guys, who's going to care for us?
Yeah.
So poverty plays a big role, but also our the culture is weekends, payday is drinking day, is
Mm.
party day.
Mm.
Sunday, I don't even see our kids going to Sunday school anymore. So many things have changed in the culture in our communities, and now we have the fruits thereof,
Yeah.
where there is this violence, where there is this turning away from godliness, from respect, from just honoring seniors, because even senior ladies are marked from their pensions. It's a sad thing that we don't even have respect for that anymore, you know.
Wow.
So I'm saying
Sure.
that it's a bigger matter than the bullets of the police and the badge of the police. But ultimately, our community is going to end up going to anarchy. And I'm hearing that a lot in the streets now.
Mm.
People are targeting, people are contemplating, people are saying, Mr. Ross, if this must happen to my child, that will be the last day I'll be alive or I'll be a free person. I will kill everybody in sight. And that is the
Wow.
pain that's causing a different angle to arise. So yeah, I understand the police is under resourced. All we require from the police, and it's a very simple thing,
Mm.
very, very simple thing, is to respond. Now, respond doesn't mean you must be there. Respond means Mr. Ross has called you, and 10 minutes later, you're still not on the scene. Call Mr. Ross back and say, Mr. Ross, I'm sorry, I heard there was a guy in your yard. We are just stuck with something major. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Because that then changes the perception that police actually cares. Now people call, they call again, they call again, and after a day even, no police has arrived. Now, what happens in that situation?
Mm.
The people create a perception that nobody's going to care for them.
Yeah.
And then self survival instincts going to start kicking in.
Yes.
And that is the concern that I have going into 2025 and
Sure.
even beyond. Our
Wow.
communities are starting to feel they are neglected and failed by the system.
Mm.
And remember, when I speak about community, some of us have this ingenious word of using in community in the sense of neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
or residence. Community is people with the same values and the same affiliation.
Yeah.
So you can have the community of a school, you can have a community of a sports club, you can have a community of a church. It doesn't mean we all stay in the same area. We are
Mm.
community. So when the community rises up, often I hear politicians say, yeah, but it's the same community that's killing each other. It's not the same cluster of people you're talking about. Remember,
Mm.
it's easy to put the community into one basket, but the community is not one basket. There's those that will use their money for illicit stuff and those that use their money for good stuff.
Wow.
Those that treat the kids to be respectful,
Mm.
to go to school, to be clean and obedient, and others that couldn't care less. It's not because we're in the same area, we are the same community. So I'm calling on those community people with the same values, with the same concerns that to have a better life, that we want to walk safe in our streets during the day and during the night. That is the community that we must address now in this time to say
Mm.
work together. It's not the neighborhood. Because within the neighborhood is the very criminals we want to battle. And
Yeah.
sometimes we want to drag them all together. It's not the same. We should not play this political game with our people. 90%, even more of our community, are good people. They don't want to live like this, but
Yep.
they have no other refuge than the police. And if the police fails that 90%,
Mm.
you can imagine slowly but surely somebody is going to come out of the woodwork and cause anarchy. And that is the pain I see coming.
Wow. Sure. Okay. Mr. Ross, we just ran out of time, but before we go, I want to give you the opportunity also, because you really changed a lot of people's perspective a few moments ago when you kind of gave your definition of what community truly is and what that looks like. And I think for a lot of people that has really changed the perception in how we use this word community, right?
Yeah.
But just before we go, I know that coming up the weekend, if just very quickly, we've got about 30 seconds. Very quickly, if you can just speak on the multi agency safety exhibition happening in Alice's River, speak to us about that so that if people want to come, they can show up.
Yeah, please, people, it's a public event at the Salboro Sports Field in Elsies River. where we have Business Against Crime and my own organization, Inspiring Lions. We have combined our efforts to bring all the police divisions, from the drone unit, the K9 unit, from law enforcement and traffic officers, every person that's involved, every division that's involved with safety and security, as well as the fire and rescue departments, emergency services, disaster management. They all going to come together on the sports field to give an exhibition of what the city and the police has to offer. Now, that's the time that we must now use as the community. You have this. You have this capacity. Let us work together to use it to the improvement and the safety of our neighborhoods.
I love that. Mr. Ross, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for speaking to me. Again, this is obviously not the last time. It's your first time joining me for 2025. So it's the first time of the year that you joined.
And you know, can I just say this? Just 2 seconds.
Yes.
I hope we're not always going to speak about the bad things. There's some great things happening in Elsie's River and the rest of Cape Town. And sometimes we call ourselves to the podium just to speak about bad stuff. I am not only about bad things. There's some great things happening as we speak right now.
100%. Again, you even spoke about the 90% part of community that really you can't paint them in the same brush, because that 90% is saying, but this is not what we want. And it's the 10% that says it's fine and we'll keep it this way. So we also have to highlight the 90%. I 100% agree with you on that. In actual fact, I think the narrative around the people coming from areas like the Cape Flats and various townships is a negative one, but the reality is there's some amazing things happening in these communities. And of course, in the coming days and weeks, we'll definitely go ahead and highlight that. But for now, thank you for your time and hope you can have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks so much. God bless you all.
Thank you so much. That was Mr.